Hello, interns. My name's Clark Lundy. I'm president of RREAF Construction Services. I've been overseeing RREAF construction for going on 5 years now. A little bit about my background. I did go to SMU, graduated a civil engineering degree. From there, I ended up in Albuquerque, New Mexico, working as a grunt engineer. Worked on a bunch of different types of projects. Obviously, coming out 2008, 2009 wasn't exactly a good time to be in the construction industry. However, if y'all go back and look, when private industry drops, a lot of government funding starts. So a lot of the jobs that I was working on had to do with the federal government and municipal jobs as well. Pretty much anybody that could get grants. Started working there and then grew into understanding that I really did not like that industry, and so ventured out on my own and began building multifamily, buying multifamily, as well as got really heavy into the Airbnb and the BTR game, build to rent. From there, that's how I met RREAF Holdings in late 2019, and then from there it grew into we want to build a fully integrated turnkey company. This is my propaganda piece. This is what you'll see me send out into any one of our prospectus. So if I go to meet with third-party developers, which is a big part of what we do, so I not only work for RREAF, I also work for other developers and owners as well, meaning that I want diversification. And in any business, that's what you want. So I don't want any one person owning more than 50% of my business at any given time. We like to have that diversification just in case there's a change in the market. So here's what we provide. This is something that y'all can go on and look. So when you think of a construction company or a full-scale general contracting company, think of it as in verticals. So that's how I like to segregate everything that we do. So the first one is operational services. This is what I call my construction management division. We provide operational budgets, estimations for acquisitions. We also do that in terms for legal when they want to go back and audit a property, same thing with our accounting team. And so what we do from there is we take the plans, we go through what's called redlining. I'm going to get heavy into that. We add development consulting. So whether or not we act as GCs, we do provide assistance to the future development partners. RREAF Communities is a big one. RREAF Development Services is the other one. And then consulting coordination. So whether or not we are the GCs, but we're overseeing a GC group, we may take a part of that. So from a horizontal development up to a vertical development, if it's outside our bandwidth, then at that point we'll make a determination whether we'll just be the consultants on the job and we'll work independently of the ownership group or the third party and the GC on site. And then the last one's project coordination. So all of that vertically comes into soup to nuts down to the project itself, and then we monitor that. Ground up development. So what you're seeing and what I'm predominantly showing on here is what type of developments are we looking at here? So think of tertiary and secondary markets moving your way down into higher urban development. Once you get down here into HUD and LIHTC, this is going to be low income, or it's also going to be controlled housing. So as private or interest rates go up, we start moving into these areas down here, all right? That's going to be much more government-associated work. We look at capital expenditure. So this is CapEx. These are assets that are already out there. We're going to buy them, and then we need to find value-add opportunities. How do we add value-add? We go in, we rip everything out of the interior, we put new stuff in, and then we slap a new market rent rate on there. Asset management is doing the same thing. How can we bump rents up 50 cents a foot? How can we bump up $1 a foot? It's my job is to provide that budget, stay within that budget, deliver on time. And so work through market rent rate, workforce housing, kind of goes with the LIHTC. Student housing, completely different marketplace. You got to move really fast. Y'all been in some student housing developments before, I'm sure. Co-living spaces, that seems to be a new vertical for a lot of people. And then hotel renovation, not something that we were into, something we kind of got pushed into, and as well as something we're looking to moving forward. And so when I have my verticals, I have a VP over this vertical, I have a VP over this vertical, and then last I have a VP over special projects from an organizational chart. Special projects, apartment to hotel conversion, that's our CPOMs. Build to rent, y'all know that. That's going to be something that Shannon's doing down at RREAF Communities. Don't know if y'all talked to anybody in his group yet, but We're going to test you. And then the last one, the big one, buzzword of the year, RV construction. So quickly, so think of a bell curve graph. Everybody's seen a bell curve. And so everything with a project starts low, and then you get in the meat and potatoes, and then it slows back down as we start to get to the end of the project. Think of it the same way. So everything that's heavy and all the money that's being spent up front is going to be very small. It's just a lot of time and effort. Once you start moving to the middle, that's when the most money is going to be spent. That's when we're drawing for the most amount to try to get to that project, keep it on schedule, stay on budget, and then work our way down. So you're going to take an area in the county or an ETJ, a large development plan. So we're talking 1,000 acres plus. It doesn't have utilities. It doesn't have infrastructure. So what are we going to do? We're going to create our own. And how do we do that? With a municipal utility district. What does that mean? I create a wastewater treatment plant. I'm going to create a firehouse. I'm going to create my own police force. I'm going to do all the piping and utility work that goes to each one of the future developments on this site. Okay? So if I'm planning on doing that, then we're going to start with the piece of dirt, and then we're going to decide how we're going to build it out. That's not my job. My job is to assist those who are going out on the acquisition side, finding that piece of dirt, and then providing maybe just some tidbits here and there. I'm not waiting for that. I'm waiting for them to have it all segmented off, and then come to me and say, we want to build this on this particular site. Can it be done? So what we do is you take that piece of dirt, we build a model. Everybody loves their model. So we take a Landco model and move the Landco model into a planned community model, and the planned community model into a multifamily model, and from a multifamily model into a for sale type model. Everybody's got their model, so it's how to combine all those together. So we start with version 1.0, and we end up with version 8.0 before it goes out to a prospectus, right? Send the design out to the public for a bid. That's when it comes to me. Then we'll put numbers on it, okay? Unless it's a design build, and at that point, I start very early with the developer, with the owner, and we decide how we want that project to go, what we want to put in there, what numbers are we going to try to back our way into from the construction side. From there, we go owner, GC contract, sign, notice to proceed. That's the start date. From there, I have a diminishing clock. The project or the contract states that I have 24 months to finish the job. I better finish the job within 24 months. Then a contract, you have something that's called liquidated damages. So any dates that I miss or I can't prove was caused by acts of God, I end up getting charged for those days. Well, that eats into my profit, which is my margins are very low to start with. That's where you kill a construction company. So the idea is that we want to make sure the date that we start and the date that we finish is falling within that budgeted time. So, and GC provides project updates. We do weekly, we do bi-weekly, we do monthly. Some of y'all have seen those. IC calls are the big ones that we provide updates to there. We provide updates to the developer groups. And then from the developer groups, they end up providing to the IC. So it always works your way up. So we start very finite with me, and then we work our way up to a little bit more vague to that 10,000 foot view. So we provide sections, the submit monthly pay applications, which I have put one in front of y'all. Y'all probably never seen that. If you're on asset management, this is something you're going to see very often. If you want to get into development, you will definitely see these. These are issued every single month. All right. Project updates, and they follow the draw schedules if there's any change orders, and we call these, it starts with a PCO, that's a potential change order, moves to an actual change order, mostly at the behest of the developer and the owner, gruffing about it. But it could be a potential change order, or it's a change that something out of sequence with the project, or the structure has changed, or the overall design aesthetics have changed. With that, we take the number and then we add whatever that's going to be, or we deduct, depending on what we take out. GC turns, we turn sections, we turn buildings, we turn floors, depending on the construction type. So whether it's an urban infill project, we'd be turning floors. If we're doing a land planning development group, we'd be doing sections. And then since a lot of what y'all have seen is garden style multifamily, we're turning buildings. And as soon as those buildings turn over, they're taken by property management. Property management comes in, FF&E. What they need to do is start the pre-leasing process, lease up as soon as we get certificate of occupancy. And then I'm on the clock for construction warranty for 11 months and 29 days. And I'm hoping that my guys did some really good work and I never get a phone call. It's never happened yet. You get multiple phone calls. It's just the way of the nature. And then, so I wait a year, see you in a year, hopefully never talk to you. And then after that, you're good to go. So the development process, simple as you can get it. We got 4 types. It's either a land development, it's going to be a residential planned community, it's going to be a commercial development and industrial development. This becomes this. This becomes this. This becomes this, and somewhere in between. All right? They're all interconnected. It's what can I do with this to make money on these 3 things, right? Okay. So the development process, the equal steps. So how this would normally work is you come up with your goals. So what are the investment goals, right? This could be something as simple as, do we want steady income? Is this a build and sell? Is this a build and hold? Depending on what the investor group wants or what we're promoting out there is what the goal. So now we go into market research. So market and property research. Who's hit CoStar already? Yeah, there we go. And what were y'all researching?
We were doing some markets and then also just individual property.
There we go. For what? What do we call those? What do we call comparables, right? I'm comparing these to what? My model. So we want to hopefully find really good properties within our vicinity that match up with our model. And then we move to choosing the right consultants. What it means is that we are the developer and now we're meeting with consultants. Consultants are going to be anybody that has a direct impact over the overall design. It's going to be legal, it's going to be architect, it's going to be civil, it's going to be MEP, mechanical, electrical, plumbing. Then it's going to be site, landscaping, okay? That's how it all starts. They're the ones that are we're going to provide a vision. They're going to help us achieve that vision. So we're only as good as our vision and our idea and the consultants that make that work. So then we decide on a site. So we divide and conquer. We decide on a site plan, divide the site into a number of different industries or potential investment opportunities. And then depending on the size of the project, we add designations. So this is where it goes, be a significant amount of back and forth. So if we go for a site plan and we say that this area is going to be, we're going to plan this out for multifamily and we want 1,500 acres. So we take that 1,500 acres and we say, I only need 12 or I only need 14 for this. That means that where is the progression going to go? So now we're going back and forth with the consultants the whole time to try to get this built and try to get it built out properly and sequence it properly. So what's going to provide us the most value at that particular point in time? Sometimes it may be residential. Sometimes it may be multifamily. Sometimes it may be an industrial property. Just depends on where we're at. And then we get into what are we building? How long is we going to do? So we make a decision and we stick to that decision. And then we go into multiple construction projects and how they're going to be sequenced out. So Midlothian's a good example. So Midlothian we've had and we've owned it almost since I've been here. At this point in time, it's got a MUD. We're trying to institute another MUD. And then at that point, we're going to divide it up and say, this is how much we want as residential. This is how much needs to be for government commercial. This is how much needs to be for commercial multifamily. And moving through a horizontal plan. And that plan brings all the infrastructure and the site work to the property and then delivers lots. That's what we're going for. Out to bid. This is important. So once it hits this phase right here, we're either in the project as a design build contractor, or I'm just a gun for hire. And that's when we bid the job. Now you get to the construction side. We get the pre-con. So this is an opportunity for me to showcase my team. It's an opportunity to showcase how well we do a project. It also gives me the opportunity to get in to meet the players in the game. That's most important. Who's going to make the decision? Who do I need to go to if there is a P0 item? And then work our way down to who do we call if I just need to change a color, right? That's what we really want to get into. And then we assist the planning and design. We go over costs. So 2 different things. This is important. So estimated versus budgeted cost. Budget is what the developer is going to put in there. It's what the acquisition group's going to put in. It's a budgeted cost. Ours is an estimated value based upon what we see in the initial plan sets. That's important because my estimated value might not be anywhere near what their budgeted value is. There's a reason for that. Their budgeted value has soft costs in there. Mine is all hard. My hard costs are everything to do with me stepping foot on that site to getting off that site. However, from a development side, we add different fees. We have acquisition fees in there. We have legal fees. We have technology fees. You have a number of things that are built in and baked in to that particular budget. Page turn and red lines. So when we get into a page turn, so that's why this is what it is. So we have all the consultants, we have the developers, we have the owners, whoever it is, sitting around a round table. And at this point, we start going through page by page every single thing that we think that there could be a impact point, a pinch point, things that we could change around to maybe save a bit of money or make it more efficient. That also gives me an opportunity to showcase our talents and what we're able to do. Also important, when I said existing infrastructure earlier on those planned communities, if it already has the water, the sewer, electrical, gas, and that's already approaching our property, how much easier it is for us to go ahead and start that project. Means the developer has already contacted them. They know that we're going to make that connection. I can go almost immediately. So we call shovel ready. And then the last two, well, I'm getting into the contingency, equipment needed. This is so if we're saying that this is a piece of equipment that we would have on our site, that has to be noted. Can I pull a crawler crane through there? Can I do everything through a track hoe? Do I need a front loader? Am I going to go down 80 feet into the ground? What do I need to achieve that goal? That's the equipment needed. And then the last one, and arguably the most important, is contingency. So you're going to have contingencies on both sides. Contingencies is for everything you do not see happening within that project that's bound to happen. So if we have a project, a construction project, a multifamily project that's $30 million, the idea is that we would pull in about 0.5% on our side, just on the construction side, as a contingency budget. Well, development also has their contingency too, based upon errors and omissions within the consulting group. So if they miss something or there has to be a massive change or a structural change, why is that important? Because it all has to be delicately detailed out in those contracts that are sitting there that are about 800 pages long. Contracts. I don't know if David talked about it, Mr. Craigle talked about it at all. So we work out of the AIA, that's American Institute of Architects, and we have essentially 4 contracts that we work through. And I put them on there, so send them around, take a look at them. We have an A101. That's going to be the generality of a contract, and that's our contract with an ownership group or a developer. Second portion of that is our general conditions. This is the meat and potatoes. So this is where we're going to get into the cost, the breakdown schedule of values, the actual schedule, how long it's going to take, and then any inclusions and exclusions. That's important because if you're reading through a contract as a developer or somebody that wants to get into development, you have to know who's covering what. And it works all the way down to the subcontractor level, which is that's my fault. If they miss something and I didn't see it, that's my fault. However, if we tell the developer that we really need water to the property and that's within your scope, y'all need to bring it, but they don't bring it for a couple of months and we stall out on a project, I can go back and notate that and say, per our contract, now it's legal. It's a legal binding entity. So didn't used to be that way. 30 years ago, it was a handshake agreement. Pretty much just everybody understood what they needed to do. It wasn't until, I would say, the mid-90s is when the contracts started to get pretty convoluted. And now we have a new contract documents almost every 2 years. So the one we're working on right now is from 2017, and we're expecting another one at the end of this year. So different contracts, I've broken it up into ideal for owners and developers is a lump sum contract. This is a Dev and GC have a fixed price for something. So you buy a house, you need to get a bathroom renovation, you're probably going to hire a handyman or you're going to hire a plumber. They're going to give you an invoice, and that invoice is for a fixed amount. right? That's a lump sum bid, and you'll see it as notated on any invoice as just LS. Okay, we don't like lump sum bids, as I can't see and break down exactly what unit price is. I need to understand what unit price is in case that fluctuates, whether that's labor or whether that's material. The same thing with the GMP contract. This is called the guarantee maximum price. Means that I go in and I say at the bottom of that pay application, if you look on the far left corner, it should have a number. It should be like 26 million or something. So we set the upper limit. So contract sets the upper limit. Construction manager or GC absorbs all costs outside of that unless notated within the contract that there is fluctuation, which I can make vague statements all the time and put those in as articles. It's for our legal team as well as my legal team to come up with a negotiated, this is what you're going to handle, this is what I'm going to handle, here's everything outside that we can't handle. Ideal for GCs, time and materials. As I show up, I give you my value. I'm worth $350 an hour. I'm going to charge you for that for any work that's been performed and anything that I expense as materials. As soon as I buy them though, they're your materials. Unit price, as I went back to beforehand, so I can't break it down through lump sum. I want to have a unit price so I can show a change. So if there's a change in a 2x4 price, an 8-foot stick of 2x4 that starts at $7 a stick, and that goes up to $15 a stick. I need to be able to show that that unit price has changed over the life of the project, which means that hopefully within my contract, I had notated that that is an unforeseen thing. If it goes over 10% change, that needs to be absorbed, the difference in 10%. So say it goes up 20%, I'm paying 10, owner's paying 10. So cost plus, I'm going to give you my general conditions, and my general conditions is going to be anything temporary. It's going to also be my overhead and payroll. And then it's going to be anything beyond that point of what insurance is. And then broken out outside of that is going to be a fixed fee number, which is usually negotiated, either at like 1% or 2% of the overall project cost. That's my fee. That's my profit. Cost plus you'll see as if a developer has a really good relationship or the project has a lot of unforeseen or uncertainty, as in this project will have a lot of that, is that there's too many variables. And because there's too many variables, instead of killing them with change orders, all it is we have a contract with certain subs. Those subs are going to provide this. However, they're only going to give me unit price on certain things. Okay, so sequencing construction. So the first thing is we have an internal meeting, a GC meeting. Internal GC meeting. So a discussion on personnel, there's an org chart. That org chart depends on the overall size of the project. So you have me as the president. From there, it goes down into which vertical. Okay, so we have ground up vertical, we have the CapEx vertical, we have the RV vertical. Depending on project size and project value and where it's located depends on how we set the org chart. So the VP is number one. Following that, you have a project manager. Project manager runs that project and probably one other one, or maybe two other ones depending on size. Then you have an assistant project manager. That assistant project manager will oversee probably the project that's in the most vital need of oversight, or the bigger one. It's usually what it is. Then you have project engineers. So project engineers can be anybody that's sitting inside or sitting on site that are working directly with that particular project. Their one focus is that project. And so we may have multiple. I may have 3 or 4, depending on where we're at. And obviously the size of the project matters. Then from there, you have a project assistant or a project coordinator. Project coordinator sits inside. They're an admin to that project. Any and all communication, meetings, any waivers that need to get signed, any certificates of insurance that need to be updated, any communication there is or internal with the subcontractors, that's what they do. They're very vital to a project. And there is much of it is communication-wise and sequencing. So they provide the updates, they fill in. They're also one of the first lines of communication to kind of weed out who needs to go to what. And then the last one you have on-site, superintendents. So you may have 1 or 2 superintendents depending on the job. You'll have a level 1 all the way up to a level 3. Once you get to level 3, you are a general superintendent, meaning that you're overseeing a number of different projects. Level 1 is going to be project specific. Then you have assistant superintendents. Again, Like project engineers, you may have 3 or 4 of them on the project. And then lastly, you have our field engineers or our laborers. And so those ones are coming in entry level, they're on site, they're the ones going through the buildings, making sure the subcontractors are on site. Who is it? They're updating all of our project management software. And then that's overseen all the way up. So that's how we get granular with each particular one, and we be able to send that information back to IC. Number 2 is this one. This is our schedule. The schedule has deliverables, and I put a delivery schedule out in front of you. So we take something that's 500 to 1,000 lines long, and we compress it to make it easier for ownership and developers to see what our delivery schedule is. Why is that important? Is because schedule and deliverables is how we manage the project, and it's how we mark certain things. We're trying to get to certain levels. Next one is something we've already talked about. This is the pay application. From there, when we get paid, subcontractors get paid, and they have to provide 2 things to us: a conditional and an unconditional waiver. A conditional waiver is what they're asking for that particular draw. An unconditional waiver is what they've been paid. So as soon as they say, I need $500,000 based upon these invoices, they send it out to us and we say, okay, sign the conditional waiver. When you get paid, they send back an unconditional waiver saying, yes, we have received the money. Why is that important? Because I don't need to have an argument with ABC Supply about why in the world did they say they didn't get paid when I'm showing that we cut them a check, they signed the waiver, and now they're going back and like scraping it back. They can't find the check. Well, that's not my fault. So then we go scheduled deliverables. So we go groundbreaking. That's the one you see everybody with the shovels out there, all the guys in suits with shovels who never actually go to the project ever again until the ribbon cutting. All right, so we go through project meeting. So that's going to have all the subcontractors involved. And then we go from project meeting to site preparation, which is our site contractor. That's what they're doing. When we finish site contracting, we give everybody a high five and say, thank God that's over. Now let's start the vertical construction. That's when you start seeing everything going up in the air. We have what's called, and this is industry standard, it's called a top-out party. So when that beam right here, or that truss goes in, and it's the last one out of all the buildings we're doing, we call that a top-out, meaning that we finally are finished with vertical construction. What does that mean? It's deliverable. And then we go from there to rough and dry end. So I'm showing you mechanical. So all the MEP stuff, and when we start to add plywood and when we start to dry in the buildings, when you see that white wrap going around the outside of a building, or that green, you see the green, what looks like plywood, it's called the zip. Once that goes on the building, now we start drying it in. At that point in time is when the construction really starts moving to finishing this thing out, okay? That's called drying it in. So now we go in, we start finishing it, drywall, trim, paint, start installing lights. We start installing all of the fixtures, appliances, and then we're moving to punch, the worst part of any job. And what I mean by that is that anybody can find, when you're looking for problems, are you going to find them? Absolutely. You can easily find something if you're looking for it. So the idea is that we have everything buttoned up as much as we possibly can. And truthfully, this is where this one vertical at the very end, because you're so close to finishing, can really pull a project back down. The more time we spend on it, the more time it's not accepted, starts eating into our overall labor number. This is called a certificate of occupancy. As soon as that's approved, that means that building can be lived in, that house can be lived in, that office can be used. Why I want that means that my date for 11 months and 29 days starts whatever date is on here. I have 1 year from that as contractor warranty. And as soon as that turns over, we go to project closeout and turnover. All right, so we engage the property manager. They start saying FF&E, FF&E, FF&E. When you hear FF&E, all that is that they're picking out appliances, they're picking out finishes, they're picking out all the interior stuff that goes with it, okay? We don't care about that. There's a line item in our budget that's either held in ours or it's held in the developer budget specifically that they can draw to put in whatever they want there. And so we start engaging them at dry-in. And that means they're now relying on us to get the thing done because they're going to start pre-leasing. Once they start pre-leasing, we're on another timetable, one in which our liquidated damages now kick in. So it's our job to work with them as much as we possibly can to get those things in, get it finished out so that they can move into the building. So building walk. So after we go through and we want acceptance, so we get certificate of occupancy. Now we're with the property management group. So we're with RR Living. We're walking through the building and they say, we will take out of 30 units here, we'll accept 28. These 2 units still need to have punch work done. And so now we're on another clock. So we can continue adding a clock to it, saying thanks for the 28. Now we have these other 2 that we need to finish to get the entire building turned over. And then the last one we have is the construction warranty. So again, I said 11 months, 29 days. That's our 12-month warranty. So everything that we have on site, from the shingles on the roof to the car stops that are out in the parking lot, anything within that amount of time that breaks is a warranty item, technically. It's either on the contractor to fix, it's on the subcontractor to fix, or if it's an act of God, it's on our insurance to fix, which is why we're trying best to get them off. So then we go to the last one, and that's our BRI, that's our builder's risk insurance. So that starts the minute we set foot on the property. That it actually ends 60 days past when we get certificate of occupancy. So there's a time in there where our insurance and the property insurance are mingling a little bit. And so what we want to do is say, property insurance now takes over. It's no longer a builder's risk issue. That's important. We need to save some money. So, all right, property accepts units, big ribbon cutting, bells and whistles, the whole shebang. This is where we get to. That's what we do. So that's the nuts and bolts of RCS and the construction industry. There's a lot more detail that we go into. Everything I've gone over is about that 10,000 to 5,000 foot view. Development's probably more 30,000 foot view. There's a lot more that goes into it.